Here's Brian with today's Real Estate Show.
Good morning, Charleston. We have an exciting episode of the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show here today for you. We're going to talk about a lot. The first thing we're going to talk about is whether the market has actually shifted to a buyer's market or not. A lot of people out there that are in the real estate market right now, they have their homes for sale. They're thinking of buying a home. They're actively looking at homes for sale, have noticed some changes. So I want to highlight some of those things. There was an interesting article that came out talking about if home buyers are finally in a position to have the upper hand in negotiating or not. So I want to talk about that article and then really relate it to what's happening here in Charleston, South Carolina, because that's the purpose of this show. So for those of you that haven't heard this show before, I've been doing this for, 13 years. I've been on this program helping you better understand not just the real estate market here locally and how regional and national news impacts us, but I also talk a lot about the real estate process, right? There are very few podcasts out there, radio shows out there that really talk about what it's like to buy a home, sell a home, invest in real estate, maybe have your property professionally managed. So that's the hole that this show fills. It provides you, the consumer, with an education so that when it comes time for you to buy, sell, or invest in real estate, you're informed. You know the right questions to ask. You know the type of real estate agent you want to work with, if at all. And you're armed with appropriate information rather than a bunch of stuff that might be put online designed to just get clicks and subscriptions and use crazy language to just generate views. This is a very down-to-earth show that helps you better understand what's happening in the world of real estate. So first thing I'm going to talk about is how buyers have gained a little bit of an advantage. I want to get some really clear numbers in front of you guys to help you understand what's shifting in our market. A little later on in the program, I want to talk about things like buying a home and selling another. You know, the spring season is upon us. A lot of people, even though we've covered this topic before on the show, still have a lot of questions about how that works and what your options are. Do you have to sell your home before you buy another? Do you have to put your home on the market before you start looking? Can you make an offer without having to sell your home first? All these things are going to be taken into consideration. I'm going to give you some options that you might not have even heard of when it comes time for you to buy a home that requires you to sell your home first. So definitely want to talk about that. I also want to talk about just off-market opportunities for buyers and sellers. As you can probably imagine, we have a lot of conversations on my real estate team. We've been selling real estate for 20 years. We've sold about 1,500 homes to the tune of about $1 billion worth of real estate locally. And so we have conversations with folks every day, 100-plus conversations with folks every day based on the size of my team. That gives us really interesting insight into consumer confidence, the questions they're asking, the things they're concerned about, and, of course, makes for some great content on this show. So want to talk about off-market opportunities, right? A lot of people are out there looking, kind of dipping their toe in the water, seeing what is out there, maybe inquiring about the value of their home for a future sale. I want to talk about how we can connect the dots there, play the role of matchmaker. And then lastly, I want to talk about, because a lot of folks that listen to this program, and I think they're just WTMA listeners in general, a little older, maybe you're thinking about moving into a retirement community. Maybe you're thinking about selling your home and moving into a 55-plus community. I'm going to give you some questions to ask and some things that you need to know so that you can properly analyze and determine whether that specific community or just a 55-plus community in general is right for you. So that's the plan. That's what we're going to talk about today. Now, if at any point in time you hear something, you want more information on it, you want to know how that relates to you specifically and your plan to buy, sell, or invest in real estate, then let me give you some contact information. My website, which has a bunch of great information on it, we just redid it a little while ago, and I think it looks beautiful. The website is listingsincharleston.com. That's listingsincharleston.com. You can call or text me. My number is 843-800-0065, 843-800-0065. Now, if you can call or text me, it comes straight to me. I'll be the one that answers it. Or you can send me an email, brian@brianbeattyteam.com. So let's get into where we are as a market right now. There was an interesting article that came out from the Wall Street Journal entitled, "Home Buyers Are Finally Getting the Upper Hand Again." So I think it begs the question, is the real estate market, back to normal, quote unquote? Well, I looked at our market and the performance of our market really this year as compared to the market that was a fairly normal and balanced market before COVID hit, right? And so what I want to do is break this out by price range and kind of help you guys understand where we are right now. But the article itself, you can look it up, talks about things like increasing the housing supply that's available, right? There are a lot more options than there have been in years past. That was something that I projected was going to happen when I did my 2025 projections show back in, I think, November or December of last year. And we're seeing that to certainly be the case here locally. But it's, of course, locally, regionally driven. The national real estate market in terms of how many homes for sale doesn't really do much in terms of helping you understand what the environment would look like if you want to sell your specific home in your specific area, in your specific price range, and the dynamics that follow that, right? It talks a lot about price adjustments in this article as well, which we have seen an increase in, a fairly substantial increase. I did a report for a homeowner that's had their home on the market for a little more than a month and showed them that, hey, here's what's happening. Here's how this market, to an extent, is softening, right? We need to get ahead of this information and at least have that data to incorporate into our decision-making, right? Talks about the mortgage rate implications and how we were all hoping that interest rates would have been lower sooner, but we have had some relief in that regard. We've come down off that 7.25%, almost 7.38%, sometimes 7.5% interest rate that people were paying to now we're in the high sixes, mid to high sixes. That's certainly helped with affordability, but not a ton. I will say that I think our market is very interest rate conscious and interest rate motivated because if you think about it, the difference between 0.5 percentage point on your mortgage rate could be the difference between you being able to buy what you want to buy or you having to make so many sacrifices on what that home has, size, features, acreage, location, so on and so forth, that it just doesn't make sense for you to move right now. And I get that. And then finally, it kind of caps off the article talking about how, hey, everything is local, everything is regional, consult with your local real estate agent, blah, blah, blah. So I want to give you guys an idea, though, of what's happening in our market right now. And this is something that we've frankly talked about for quite a while on this show. And I try to help you guys understand that by the time major media outlets report on something, it's because the data has been there long enough to develop a trend. Right? What we get to see as real estate agents that are high caliber, high producing real estate agents is something a little different. It's the insight into how people are behaving, right? We get a lot of consumer interaction on a daily basis that we can draw some information out of to help our clients prepare for the process of buying and selling. It gives us a very, very clear picture of how people are thinking and feeling about the real estate market. So when I look at, I'm going to break this up by price ranges. So I've got 250 to 500, 500 to 750, 750 to $1 million, $1 million to $2 million. You can kind of determine using any online valuation tool where your home is in that category. I will say really quickly though, just while I'm on that topic, that automated home evaluation tools will forever be, well, not forever, I suppose, but they are currently flawed. Just like Zillow's Zestimate, which I have picked apart time and time again on this program. Even my own home evaluation tool, which is automated, and it's the best in the industry, is going to get the value of your home wrong because of two major things. Well, I guess three. Number one is condition. They don't know the condition of your home. Now, I guess that they could put some sort of consumer rating scale on there for what they believe the value or the condition of their home is, kind of like a Kelley Blue Book for your car. But that's going to be subjective, right? It also doesn't take into account your upgrades, the quality of your finishes, right? If you have high-end flooring and high-end countertops and this, that, and the other, and that is over and above what the quote-unquote average is for your area, well, then obviously your home's going to be worth more, but how much more? Again, the home valuation tool won't take that into account. The third thing is motivation. People sell their home for different reasons, and not every reason to sell a home is a happy one. So have you had distress sales in your area that ultimately impact the value of your home, or at the very least, a buyer's perception of the value of your home, because that's obviously important, right? When you're determining a price, you've got three different perspectives. You've got what the seller wants to sell it for, what the buyer's willing to pay, and then the third is what you can prove through data, through something like an appraisal. So if you look at the 250 to 500K range, right now, the number of homes that we have for sale has gone up 45% since this time last year. Days on market is up 44%. Pending sales have stayed the same. Closings are down 22%. The month's supply of inventory, which is kind of what we use to measure the health of a real estate market as it relates to whether it's a buyer market, normal market, or seller market, right now is at 3 months. In fact, just to get this out of the way, every price range right now is at about 3 months supply of inventory, which technically is a seller market. But if you look at some of the other data points and the trends that are developing or that have been developed at this point, you'll see that buyers are not behaving as though we're in a seller market. They're behaving as though we're in a normal or maybe even a buyer market. A lot of that can be evidenced by looking at the number of showings we get per listing, per price range. You know, anytime somebody schedules a showing on a house for sale, they go through a third-party company. That third-party company then coordinates the showing between the seller, the listing agent, and the buyer agent. It's all done online. But the nice thing is they record all of that data and they turn that into statistics we can then use to help our sellers understand, hey, this is the number of showings you should be getting in this area, in this price range. So that's the target that we're shooting for. We want to be at or above that number. If we're significantly below it, well, then that might mean we need to make some adjustments, right? Maybe we've missed the mark a little bit. So that's what's happening in the 250 to 500K range. Now, 500 to 750K, listings are up 54%. Days on market has almost tripled. It's up 270% from this time last year. Closings are up 5%, and the number of showings are down 20%. You look at the 750 to $1 million market, their homes for sale has gone up 58%. Days on market, not that much has changed. It's up 9%. Closings are up 34%, but the month's supply of inventory is up 48%, and showings are down 21%. So, yeah, again, when I'm reading this data, you might hear something like, well, closings are up 34%. That's great. Well, why is the month's supply of inventory not reflecting a normal or a buyer market? I'm just here to tell you that it's trending in that direction. It's just not quite there yet. Last one is the $1 million to $2 million price range, right? New listings are up 29%. Days on market has almost doubled. Closings are up 32%. And showings are down 13%. So just a few other, I'd say, interesting things to understand about our market right now is that before COVID, and the massive surge, right, of relocations and sales and price increases and inventory shortages and rock bottom interest rates, we had a fairly healthy and balanced real estate market before COVID. Last month, though, we had the lowest number of showings per listing in the past decade. And that is a precursor stat that we use to determine demand, right? So not looking too good there. I would say, prior to COVID, we averaged about 5,500 homes for sale. We've got about, 4,400 homes for sale right now. But I mean, if you look at from March 2020 to March 2021, we went from 5,500 homes to less than 2,000 homes for sale. There was a massive drop in what was available. And then a year after that, we had 1,500 homes for sale. It went down even further. So now we've got about 4,400 homes for sale. We're about 1,000 short of what we were averaging before COVID, but homes are taking longer to sell than they were prior to COVID. We're getting the same percentage of the original asking price as we were prior to COVID. We have 3 months supply of inventory versus the 4 month supply of inventory we had for a few years on average before COVID. Yet prices are up 45%. So I think what's happening, just in the grand scheme of things, to help you understand and put a bow on this and move on to the next topic, is that the level of demand that we are seeing among buyers is lower than it has been in years past. That is evidenced by the lower percentage of showings that each property is getting. Prices, although they are up year to date compared to last year, in many areas are fairly flat. But because days on market is increasing, it's giving buyers more negotiability. It's allowing them to say, hey, you've been on the market for 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, 5 months, 6 months. I looked at a listing yesterday that was a nice house in West Ashley. It's been on and off the market for 3 years. And it doesn't look like it doesn't look like there's anything wrong with it. It's just overpriced. And so that's part of the challenge too, is people getting the price right on their house. And I did a really great show on that about a month and a half ago. You can find that and all of the other stuff that we've done on this program over the past 13 years on YouTube and on our podcast, on iTunes and Spotify and Google Play and iHeartRadio and all that great stuff. Just search up the Brian Beatty team and you'll find it. I'm again your host, Brian Beatty. Thanks again for joining me this morning. Gosh, we've got so much I don't know if I'm going to be able to get through all this. I got a lot of content for you guys today. Because of the spring market and just where we are, this is really the prime time for folks that are thinking of selling their home and buying another and getting settled before school starts in the fall. Or, fill in the blank reason why somebody would want to sell a home and buy another. Of course, this information applies to you as well. It's just that from a seasonal perspective, this is basically the busiest time of the year for us. It's when everybody's thinking about doing something, putting plans in place. And then we've got to do all the behind the scenes work to get properties ready for sale, market them, so on and so forth. So I want to talk about this process of selling a home and buying another at the same time. The obvious fear that a lot of people have is that they make an offer on a house that they really like, but their home doesn't sell in time and they miss out on that opportunity. Or they're fearful, of course, that they put their home up for sale and somebody wants to buy it and they don't want to lose that deal, but they can't find something to move into. There's a bunch of different reasons why people have hesitations and concerns about this process. But here's some solutions, right? Here's some things that you can do and some ideas that I've talked about on the show before. And for whatever reason, a lot of folks still don't use some of these alternate tactics. So I want to revisit this because I think there's some gold in here and some great opportunities for you if you're a seller, buyer, both looking to make that move, right? And let me just say very quickly that we've got the moving incentive that we've had for years on this program for WTMA listeners, where if you sell a home and buy another with us locally, we'll pay your moving expenses. Right, that in combination with several other incentives that we have at any given point in time. Reach out to us for more information on how we can help you with that, whether it's financial relief or guarantees that help you understand, look, we're going to put our money where our mouth is. We're going to provide you with performance-based guarantees so that we're not just all talk and no walk. So if you want to reach out to us, listingsincharleston.com is our website, listingsincharleston.com. Or give us a call or text, 843-800-0065. That's 843-800-0065. All right, so let's talk about this. Option one is the most common. You want to sell your home and buy another, and so you start the process kind of in reverse, meaning you're going to find the home that you want to buy, and then if the seller is open to allowing you to put your home on the market and then market it and then accept an offer and then close on that deal before you buy theirs, then that's the easiest way of going for you, right? Because a lot of folks don't want to put their home on the market until they know where they're going. And I get that. The challenge over the past few years is that because the market has been so hot and so in favor of sellers, that many of them have not wanted to give you the time of day to put your home on the market, get it under contract, hope that it closes so that they can then sell their house. There were too many people that were willing to buy the property without the condition of them having to sell their home first. And so for several years, from 2020 to probably last year, it was tough. It was tough to get a seller to agree to something like that. Did it happen? Yes, of course. But generally speaking, sellers weren't really open to that idea because they didn't want to take on that risk and potentially miss out on a different buyer that didn't have a home to sell. And so that'll make sense, right? The traditional sense is, of course, you make the offer contingent upon you listing and selling your house. In this first option, there's something called a kick-out clause. Now, that kick-out clause is part of the contract that you and the home you're trying to purchase, right, the seller of that home make. So the kickout clause says that, hey, I'll take your offer and you can put your home on the market and you can try and sell it. But if another buyer comes along and they don't have to sell their house and your home isn't already under contract yet with somebody to buy it, then I get to kick you out of the process and go with this other person. So from a seller's perspective, that's great. From a buyer's perspective, it can really take the wind out of your sails, especially if you really love that home. You just don't have the financial ability to buy it without selling your home first. Insert option 2. Rather than doing a home sale contingency where you make an offer contingent upon selling your house, you can do a home purchase contingency. And for whatever reason, I've not seen a listing in our MLS in, frankly, years that has this kind of language in it. The idea is very simple. It's the reverse of a home sale contingency. It means that you're going to put your house on the market, and obviously you're looking for a new home to buy. But if somebody comes along and makes you an offer that you just feel like you can't refuse, you're going to insert a home purchase contingency that says, hey, I'll take your offer, but I need some time to find a replacement property. So if you'll give me 3 weeks or 3 months, whatever the time frame is you can get to agree with that other buyer on. And that's the beauty of real estate contracts, by the way, is that you can put darn near anything in that agreement so long as both parties agree to it, right? But with the home purchase contingency, you list your house for sale. If somebody comes in and makes you an offer before you have found your replacement property, then you insert a home purchase contingency that says, hey, I've got 30 days to identify another property, put it under contract, and get through the due diligence period, right? I want to do my inspections. I want to make sure that this is a house that I actually want to buy. And once I do that, then I'll remove this home purchase contingency, and then you can start doing your inspections, and everything should work out just fine, right? The beauty in that is that when you go and you approach that seller that has the home you want to buy, you get to say either one of two things. Number one, my home is already on the market, and if you accept this offer, we will make sure that we're under contract within the next fill-in-the-blank period of time. Or you get to say, hey, my house is already under contract. I have an offer, but as part of that agreement, I have a certain amount of time to find a replacement property. So it's nice in that you get the seller of the home that you want to buy to, it's easier for them to agree to the idea of you needing to sell your home before you buy another because you've already taken certain steps, right? We've taken home sale contingency-based offers in the past because, again, I've been doing this for 20 years, and you learn things along the way, mostly through bad experiences, quite frankly. But, there have been times in the past as a young buck real estate agent where we take a home sale contingency, but it takes the buyer like 3 weeks to get their house on the market. Well, that's lost marketing time for us, right? So when we make these offers now, or when we accept these offers, if it's our listing, we need a very clear amount of time that person has to get their home on the market, get it under contract, and get it closed. And at any point along the way, they miss that deadline, I get to cancel the agreement and put it back on the market. Or I get to include a kickout clause for anyone that wants to buy my house that needs to sell their home first, in which their home is not under contract yet. So it just gives you a different way of doing things. And frankly, it gives you more negotiability with the person you're trying to buy their house from because you've already taken steps associated with selling your house with the added layer of protection that you don't have to sell your house to the buyer that you agree to the offer from unless you can find a suitable replacement property, get it under contract, and get through inspections within a certain period of time. The third option could be a sale with a leaseback, right? You just sell your home and you negotiate with that buyer to be able to rent the property back from them for some predetermined period of time. That then gives you the time to not have to find, a short-term rental or live in a hotel or go and rent a place for 6 months. It's a great way to save some money. The fourth option is that there are companies out there, and we work with them, not all the time, but on occasion, where you've identified a house you want to buy. You need to sell your house first. The seller is not open to a home sale contingency, right? They don't want to take the time and the risk of you putting your home on the market, getting it under contract, and hoping that it'll close. So what this third-party company will do is they will buy the house that you want to buy for cash. So for all intents and purposes, you look as though you are a cash buyer that's making an offer on their house. They will buy it if you can't sell your home in time. And then when your home sells, you buy it back from them. There's a percentage that they charge. It's not a ton. The number can look big if you're looking at $1 million plus home. But usually it's around 2%. It's going to cost you about 2% to have this company act as if you are a cash buyer. They'll buy the house, you buy it from them, and the gap in time between the time they purchase it and the time you purchase it back from this company, they just charge you rent. Fair market rent per diem. It's a great option for somebody that's like, you know what, I just can't miss out on this house. This is the only reason why I would want to move in the first place, is because this house is what I want. So it's just another option that people have that I don't think many people even know exist. I think most people, and I know this because I talk to them all the time, assume that they need to go and find a property and then they'll get serious about selling their house. The nice thing about the change in the market that we've seen over the course of the past few months, about 6 months or so, is that sellers are more open to those types of offers because it's taking them longer to sell their house. You know, it's in most instances, it's taken them about 50, 60% longer to sell their home than it was this time last year. So we have some trends and some dynamics in the market that are not very seller friendly, but as a buyer or somebody that's selling their home and buying another, you get to capitalize on that because the seller would rather say, hey, one in the hand is worth more than two in the bush. I'd rather take this offer because it's a good price and yeah, I'll have to wait for them to sell their home. But it's better than just staying on the market. And that's really good for folks that have been on the market for, a month plus. Brand new listings are sellers that enticed by that kind of offer. Well, obviously not as much as somebody that's just going to buy it right now and move into it without having to sell their home first. But I think a lot more sellers are open to the idea of taking what they can get. So, every situation's different. If you're in a position where you're thinking of selling your home and buying another, let's talk about some of these options because it's important to understand what you're looking for, what the dynamics of that particular market look like. And what I'm going to talk about next kind of goes hand in hand with this, off-market opportunities. So if that's something you want to explore in greater detail, give me a call. I'll walk you through it. 843-800-0065. That's 843-800-0065. Or check us out online, listingsincharleston.com. That's listingsincharleston.com. I always like to take a minute and just say that I appreciate those of you that listen to this program. There have been folks that reach out to us that say that they have heard me on the radio for years and years and years. And it's just such a refreshing thing for me to be able to come in here basically week in, week out, deliver my opinion of the real estate market, educate you on the process, and then be rewarded with some opportunity. So I want to say that I appreciate all of you that reach out to me, that ask questions, that seek guidance, and ultimately that hire us to help you with your real estate needs. So thank you, those of you that are listening, that are avid listeners of the show that we've done business with. Thank you. And if you are one of those folks that is thinking about making a move this year, maybe you've got some questions about the market, the process, how to go about things, what your home is worth, what properties look like, or what opportunities we might have that don't exist publicly, right? That's what I want to talk about next is off-market opportunities. So if you're in that camp, we'd love the opportunity to at least have a conversation with you, see if we can help you in any way. My number is 843-800-0065. That's 843-800-0065. Or listingsincharleston.com is our website. Listingsincharleston.com. Just remember, we've got 1,000 plus videos on YouTube because we record this, right? I'm on video right now as you're hearing me. And then we edit that. My wife is a fantastic editor. We put it on YouTube and all over social media. We've got a podcast on iTunes, Spotify, Google Play, iHeartRadio. So check us out in whatever medium suits you best. Anyways, let's talk about off-market opportunities. I think this is something that a lot of people want, and not many real estate agents have kind of figured out how to connect the dots. And so here's what I mean. It's a bit of an interesting thing to try and explain to you guys because you're not real estate agents. Well, some of you are that are listening, but the idea is this, right? We talk to people all day, every day about the about the idea of helping them with their real estate needs, right? I always tell my agents and those that join my team, and over the years, it's just become this little phrase that I've come up with, which is that I'm in two businesses. I'm in the business of helping people buy, sell, invest, and manage real estate, and I'm in the business of finding people to help buy, sell, invest, and manage real estate. And that applies for just about any company out there. It doesn't matter if you're selling insurance or financial services or fill in the blank, landscapers. I mean, everybody has to be good at marketing themselves to an extent. I just choose to do that by providing you with data and insight based on a large amount of experience, right? I don't know of anybody else out there that has sold the number of homes I've sold to the volume that I've sold that is still sitting down with you at their kitchen table talking about the process. You know, most of them have teams and they're their face behind the company, but there's no client interaction. All they're doing is training their agents. So when we talk with all of these folks that are considering buying, selling, just like in many other sales-based industries, we have something called a CRM, right? A consumer or customer relationship management system, right? So, yeah, you call us and you go into a database. That's just good business. It's organization, right? But what happens after that? You know, a lot of agents are just going to call and they're going to say, hey, 6 months, you said you were thinking about buying a house. It's been about a month. You're still thinking you're about 5 months down the road. And then next month, you're about 4 months away. There's not a lot of value there, right? It's just, it's more of like an interrogation for a lot of folks. What we do is, frankly, a little different. It's, I think, what a lot of agents want to be able to do, what they say they'd like to do, but they don't have the mechanisms. They don't have the systems and the processes to connect the dots. And so let's say you're a buyer. And you say, look, here's what I'm looking for: bedrooms, bathrooms, square footage, price range, location, features, so on and so forth. Of course, we're going to set you up with an MLS search, and so that every time a new listing hits the market, you're informed, right? Instantaneously. The MLS is the source of information that every third-party website uses, like Zillow and Realtor.com and Redfin and so on and so forth. And here's the deal. Not every one of those websites gets it right every time. Sometimes listings just are missing from those websites for whatever reason. These websites have glitches. Sometimes you don't get information on new listings until the day after it was on the market, which means the people that had MLS searches set up that are receiving property alerts, they got that information yesterday. You're already behind the eight ball if it's something you like. Someone could have already seen it and made an offer, which unfortunately happens to quite a lot of people, especially over the past few years, that were like waiting to see new things that hit Zillow. But by the time they called and an agent actually called them back, it's like 2 days after it hit the market, there's already multiple offers on the property. You've already lost. So what a lot of buyers want is access to properties that are not publicly available, right? So if you think about a high caliber real estate team, I mean, we have two databases basically that we manage. One has almost 30,000 people in it that we have engaged with, that are on our website, that are looking at properties that we can search through. And like as an example, you want to sell your house? Well, all I get to do on my end is put in your address, the features of your home. It will boop, 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 do a little search, and it will tell me the number of people I have contact information for right now that are looking for a home similar to yours. And then I can put a calling list together and I can call them right then and there. That is the power of working with a real estate agent with a big database that is constantly generating what we call leads, right? And they're really good at lead conversion, just like any other business. So if you're a buyer and you talk to us, we're going to have plenty of seller leads that are in various stages of the home prep process. Maybe we talk to them and in 6 months they're going to sell their house, but they want to know what their home is worth now. They want to start thinking about some things that they can do, or maybe some things they shouldn't do to their house to get it ready for sale. And by the way, if somebody comes along and they want to move in the fall as well, then, well, might as well connect them now, right? So we've got this big database of 30,000 people that are engaged, right? An engaged database of people that are looking at properties, that are communicating with us about their needs, timeframes, motivations, so on and so forth. And so if you're a buyer, we can look in our database and say, here's all the people that are planning on putting their home on the market. No one else knows about it because they're not publicly for sale, but that's the benefit in working with a high caliber real estate team. Of course, if you're a seller, a lot of folks, I think especially right now, are open to the idea of selling, but they want to do it in somewhat of a non-traditional way. Like, in other words, they don't want to have their home broadcasted to the world. They don't want their nosy neighbors to know that they're selling their home. They don't want a sign in the front yard. They don't want a bunch of people walking through the house that are not ready, willing, and able. Now, they'll sell their house, but they want serious, ready, willing, and able buyers right now. Well, that's where something called a brokerage exclusive listing comes into play. It's also, it's like a pocket listing, right? Shadow inventory, off market. There's a bunch of different terms for it, but the idea is this. A seller hires us to market their property to my internal database only and to every other agent within my company's database only. Now, obviously, the big benefit in that is that I work at Keller Williams Realty. It's the biggest brokerage in the world. We have international exposure. You go up against a local company in this regard, and they've got maybe a few hundred, max 1,000 or two agents. That pales in comparison to the tens or hundreds of thousands of agents that we have worldwide. The benefit is we get to promote your home to the people that we're already in contact with, but we cannot do any form of public marketing. We can't even put a sign in your front yard, right? We can't introduce it to anybody new. We have to only speak with folks that we've been in contact with in the past. The big benefit to you as a seller is that because it's not publicly for sale, the quote-unquote clock isn't working against you, right? There is no visible days on market, right? You could try and sell your home off market for a year and the buyer would be none the wiser because it's not online. They can't see the history or the record of that property for sale. So it's a great option for a lot of folks that want something a little less invasive. So if that's something you're interested in, we help folks with that all the time. And we've got a really good system and some technology at our fingertips that allows us to play that role of matchmaker, right? Help sellers find buyers and vice versa. So if you want more information on that, listingsincharleston.com is our website, listingsincharleston.com. Or give me a buzz, 843-800-0065, 843-800-0065. I want to finish the show a little bit rapid fire, but I want to talk about things you need to know and questions you need to ask if you're considering selling your home and moving into a 55-plus retirement community, right? So I've got it split up into a few different sections. I'm happy to send you this list, by the way. I don't think I'm going to be able to get through everything. So if you want this list of questions to ask, just type in the word or text the word retirement to 843-800-0065. Just text the word retirement to 843-800-0065, and I'll give you this list of questions. But here's some highlights. I think the first is that you need to determine what kind of 55-plus community you need to live in. There are a few different kinds. There's the active adult communities. There's independent living. There's continuing care retirement communities, CCRCs. And then, in those communities, there are a bunch of different questions and things you need to know. Like, as an example, what are the costs beyond just the purchase price? What are the monthly HOA fees? Are there association fees? Of course they're going to be, but what's included? How much are they? Are there any special assessments upcoming for community improvements? Is there anything planned there? Things you need to know, because a lot of folks that are moving into 55-plus communities, they're on fixed income, right? And they're living off retirement, so on and so forth. What's the financial stability of the HOA? Just because it's a retirement community doesn't mean that it's in great shape financially. How often do those fees increase? And is there a cap on the percentage of increase of those fees on an annual basis? That's an important one to understand. Also, what do property tax implications look like? Is it more or less than what you're paying now? That needs to go into, your budget. What about resale opportunities? Can you buy something from someone that lives in there currently, or is it only new construction? And if it's only new construction, what sort of incentives are they offering, if any, like closing costs or fixed rate mortgages or design allowances? A lot of builders out there have become pretty open to providing incentives to folks to get them through the door, because new construction is certain a little bit just like the rest of the market, or at least in comparison to where it has been over the past few years, which we talked about earlier. And are purchase prices in that neighborhood negotiable? What about maintenance? What sort of maintenance are you responsible for as a homeowner? What sort of exterior maintenance do you need to do? A lot of folks move into these communities because they don't want to keep up with the yard anymore. Well, Is that the case, or do you still need to mow your own lawn? What if your bushes die? Do you have to replace those, or is the HOA going to take care of that? I think another question or series of questions to ask just relates to the timing of everything, right? Now, the timing is going to be up to you and what works best for you, but let's look at the market for a second. Is the timing right to sell your home based on what's happening in the market? Should you sell first before you buy in a retirement community? Or maybe if you have the ability to, does it make sense to keep your home as a rental property to promote some rental income? Does that community even allow for a home sale contingency, right? Do they even give you the ability to sell your home first before you buy another? Or do they say, sorry, we don't deal with those types of offers. You have to be able to buy it, and we're not going to give you time to sell your home first. And then do they offer, like alternative purchasing methods, like that one I spoke about earlier about having a third-party company pay cash for that property, and then you buy it back from them when your home sells? Looking at the lifestyle and amenities, you have to look to see whether they're offering things that are right for you. I think a question to ask would be like, if you don't want to participate in those activities, do you still have to pay? The answer is more than likely going to be yes, but it's a good question to ask. I think another important thing, just really quickly, because we're running out of time here, is are there restrictions on home modifications or personal landscaping? How strict are the age requirements? Do both of you have to be 55 plus, or can only one of you be 55 plus? What about guests when they come to visit you? How long can they stay? Can they park on the street, or do they have to be in the driveway? What if you have, family with 3 cars that are coming to visit you? What's the plan there? What if you own a boat? Can you park it in the driveway? What happens with that? I think another just important thing really quickly is things like healthcare accessibility. How close are you to hospitals, urgent care, specialists? Do they provide in-home care services? Do they offer transportation to things like medical appointments, church, grocery shopping, so on and so forth? So I know that I didn't do this list justice. We've got so many other things on here. So if you want this list, again, text the word retirement to 843-800-0065. I'll send this to you. 843-800-0065, or check us out online, listingsincharleston.com. Thanks for listening to the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show. You guys have a great weekend.
Join us for another edition of the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show next Saturday morning at 9 and Sunday morning at 10. Find him online at listingsincharleston.com. That's listingsincharleston.com. Or call him at 843-800-0065. That's 843-800-0065.